Good evening, everyone. Welcome for another episode here at College Blitz. I'm Russ Morgan. Here's my man Q. Q, we like a 3 or 4 week hiatus. How's it being back from the Stone Ages with no internet, no TV?
All is good, man. It's good to be back on the grid. I'm not an off the grid type of person. I was born and raised in Miami. I'm not cut out for being off the grid. For those people interested in doing that. But yeah, man, a little bit of a hiatus. Just kind of life. Moving, waiting on AT&T to get their shit together and get me back on track and being out of town, dealing with family. Just a lot of different things going on, man. But definitely glad to be back back on the grid, off hiatus, and get back to some podcasting, man. Glad to be on with you, bro.
Dude, I did a mission trip in Puerto Rico, and the only thing we were allowed to do with our phones for the 5 days there was you could use it for pictures and to like send your parents like, "Hey, I'm doing good.
Yeah, I'm alive."
It was honestly, it was phenomenal, dude. I felt so free of not having the phone. I'm like, I wish now I don't think I could do it, but I'm like, just like putting the phone away and getting away from like everything. Like I had two siblings' weddings, right? I took 4 pictures total. Wow. I'm like, I don't need my camera. I'm living in the moment right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't need my camera out, like taking pictures. Like, I don't need to throw it on Instagram and be like, yeah, I was there. I was like, I went to Cancun. I know I was there. I was at my place. But it was nice, but it's definitely when you're in the middle of college football season, you need your scores, you need to be able to watch, and
100%.
We're right here on November 20th, so we're in the thick of things.
Yeah, man. We talk every week, right? That we've been doing it. It's another week is gone. Another week is gone. We're a quarter of the season is gone, a third of the season is gone, and we're looking now, and 80% of the season is done basically, right? I mean, we're just about everybody's got 2 games remaining in the season, and I wish the work day most days went by as fast as college football season goes by, right? I mean, I love the season. Even though I hate football most of the time, I definitely love the season, but I also hate how fast it really, like, you blink and it's done, right? And so, yeah. I mean, we're a week out from Thanksgiving, basically, right? Because I mean, today's the
next week.
Yeah, we're literally a week out from Thanksgiving, which is insane, for me to say. I live in the Metro Atlanta area. It's cool, even though it's been unseasonably warm. It's been beautiful out here, but the leaves are changing. It's cool outside. You're seeing, Christmas stuff up, already. And it really does kind of drive home the point. It's like, look, man, season's done, and even though the season is done, we move on to, a great part of the season, which is the postseason and the playoff. And, when you're talking playoff, there's always gonna be controversy.
Year 2 of bitching and moaning.
100%. You can't help it. You can't help it. It's when it's a playoff system being ranked by people. How that's gonna go.
So this is. I mean, I think going into when we had the BCS and then had the 4-team, and then everybody's after about like a year in, everybody's like, oh, the 12 team's great. I'm like, this is what we want. I'm like, in every sport, we don't like this. We want it better. We're going to get a year. Oh, this isn't good enough. We want it better. There's always a problem. So it's like, this wasn't good enough. We do this. That wasn't good enough. Now we go to the 12 team. After about a year, now we want 16 teams. Where is it going to start? I mean, I get it. Every team who's in the hunt is going to end up, 1 or 2 teams are going to get screwed, especially because, I mean, I like a group of 5 in there. I think that's a good little twist. But there's times like you're seeing this year where does that group of 5 team deserve to be in? Now, Boise State last year, 100% deserved to be in. Did they deserve a bye? Probably not, but they 100% deserve to be in. Even though their conference is weaker, their body of work playing Oregon really very very tough. I mean, taking them down the wire, they deserved it. Does a JMU, which I've been all in on JMU since they came up. I really like.
You have you've
You know,
been beating the drum for JMU.
Yeah, I've known that they were good in the FCS, so I'm like I like to see it. But does a JMU or a Tulane deserve a bid over a BYU or a Utah or Miami? Hypothetically, I don't think so.
Yeah, look, it's a complicated conversation to have because it entails nuance, right? And I think you like to think that the 13 people that make up the playoff committee are free of bias, and they're not. All of them have ties to different conferences, which in turn is going to make them naturally biased, towards one direction, towards one particular agenda. I don't care what anybody says. Excuse my voice, I'm a little hoarse, but no matter what you say, naturally you're going to be connected to. When you're connected to a conference, you're naturally going to have a particular agenda that you tend to side with, right? And so, like you were mentioning, the BCS, very few people liked it, right? Obviously, there was a lot of issues with it, and then we said, hey, listen, we can't leave it to computers. We gotta involve people. We have to involve a committee. We got to have more teams. And you mentioned, right, a better way. I don't necessarily think that people are looking at a better way. I think most people, that aren't, fans of like your traditional top 3 or 4 teams in the country, even though, those change kind of every few years, for the most part, but I think, people want inclusivity, right? And a 4-team playoff, I honestly never thought it was enough. I thought, somewhere between like 8 and 12. I don't know that 16 necessarily is the answer. And that's a discussion for another day, but I'm definitely a fan of, the group of 5, being represented. We can't make this one of the things, and one of the things that I kept pushing back on when I talked to people about it is like, we can't make this thing the SEC Big Ten Invitational, right? Like it can't be that. If we're doing, 12 teams, it can't be, 5 and 5 from the Big Ten and the SEC. That's not how this goes, right? And you're looking at these rankings, and they're trying to. It boggles my mind, the arguments that some of the people are making for these teams. You're like, where are you getting this from? Like, what? Early on it was this. Oh, we need assurances. The Big Ten and the SEC, we need assurances as to like guaranteed, number of teams in. And everybody else was pushing back for good reason, right? Like you can't let the SEC and the Big Ten punk you into like, oh, we need guaranteed slots, because what's going to happen is those conferences, not only are they going to get the guaranteed, let's say call it 4 or whatever, but then without fail, there's going to be an at-large or 2 from both of those conferences that people are going to beat the drum to get in, right? So now we're looking at half the field for one conference, like no, and so. When you're looking at some of these teams, you mentioned James Madison, right? There's other teams, right? USF has been pretty good this year, and Navy has been pretty good this year, and so on and so forth. But these are teams that, even though they may not necessarily deserve to be, a top half of the bracket team, if you're looking at getting, your 10 essentially for the most part best teams in, and those 2 last slots, how could you not 9.5 out of 10 years? Justify a highest ranked, group of 5 team getting in, right? So I don't think there's any reason to make this thing, the SEC Big Ten Invitational, right? There's only, we get guaranteed spots and we have to have. No, I think, right, that's going to take care of itself most years, right? The auto bids are the auto bids. And then from year to year, it's going to be cyclical, right? We're going to have some teams, right, like last year that we had Boise State and we had SMU and we had Arizona State in. Right. And so teams that aren't normally, in the conversation for that type of postseason recognition. Right. And so I think that's cool to see. Right. Like I know who I want in every year. Right. But at the same time, like we do have to be open minded and not make this thing we can't be elitist in terms of like, it's only 2 conferences allowed. Right. Because I just don't feel like that's the way it should work. I think Yes, are the better teams going to be in those two conferences year after year? Yeah, and that's going to take care of itself. But we can't make it so that it's only those two conferences with a say in the deal. Like, forget about money and forget about notoriety. And if you want to make this thing legitimate, if you want to make this thing something where the country as a whole is going to be going to have interest in it, it's got to be more than the Midwest and the Deep South. Like that's my opinion.
I'm with you. I think at the end of the day, like, I know people are all up in arms this week because you see 5 SEC teams and you see 3 in the Big Ten. I don't see 5 getting in. I don't see it happening. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's going to be one team's going to get left out. And I mean, I could see 4 with, Georgia, A&M, and I don't know, Oklahoma or Ole Miss. I mean, it's good, but I just don't see that happening unless something really crazy happens in the SEC championship game. I don't know who you're gonna. I don't fathom seeing that they can justify getting 5 teams in. I mean, because then you would be leaving out. I mean, possible 2-loss team 2 from another.
Other deserving teams, right? Deserving teams.
I don't see anything more than 4 and possibly 3. But I mean, going into that, we got to, before we get, because everybody wants to talk about the college football playoffs, and I know every team who's out, not just Hurricanes fans who are outside looking in right now, are pissed off. But I mean, we got a pretty weak slate this week, very weak slate. The SEC's on their, on their bye week, basically, unless you're,
this is cupcake week for the SEC.
Unless you're Auburn, who's playing like 9-1 Mercer.
Yeah.
Hey, they've done it before. They lost to New Mexico State, and they paid them like $3 million to come down.
Listen, upsets happen. And with Auburn this year, there's nothing at all guaranteed. We've seen it. Obviously, they've got an interim coach situation. Their quarterback situation has been terrible. Even though the talent around him, I think is good talent. The coaching just wasn't there. The quarterback play wasn't there. And with a guy like Hugh Freeze, who always, prided himself on, when he's been at other stops, right? Liberty, when he was at Ole Miss, right? Prided himself on, being a guy who develops quarterbacks and the whole deal. Listen, man, they went out and paid, I think it was like $1.5 million to bring in Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma. There's a reason why Jackson Arnold was let go by Oklahoma, right? They told him he could walk, and you saw it this year, right? So, you're looking at that and you're going, man, that was a miss. That was a hell of a miss right there, because I don't know what you thought he was going to turn into, right? I think there's a little bit of arrogance there, in my opinion, when you look at a guy who's shown you who he is over the course of lots of years, right? A guy who's a 5-star coming out and never lived up to it. And you thought that he was going to come into Auburn and into your program and become, I don't know what, he could scramble pretty well, but just, that's all he can do. Yeah, turnovers and just bad quarterback play, man. And he had talent. He had talent around him. He had skill position talent around him. He had talent, but just poor coaching, poor quarterback play. And what a waste of money that was for Auburn with Jackson Arnold.
But, I mean, going into this week, the big game where College Game Day is going to Eugene. Number 15 USC faces number 7 Oregon. Now, this is a playoff, has massive playoff implications. Because in my opinion, if Oregon loses, it's done. Because what they're hanging their hat on is they beat Penn State at a whiteout. That win's not looking really good anymore.
You're gonna make me get angry now.
That win is not looking good. So I mean, I'm with you. I don't think they deserve it. I don't care if they got 1 loss. I take 5 SEC teams over Oregon all day.
Dude, and the reason, look, again,
this is a big thing for Miami fans, because if USC does, the Hurricane fans, if USC does end up pulling this upset, they're 10.5 point underdogs right now. Miami has a head-to-head they have a common game against Notre Dame, and USC lost to Notre Dame by 10. Miami did beat Notre Dame by 3. So there is that common opponent they have, which would be big for them. I don't think Oregon deserves it, but I mean, hanging your hat on Penn State, it's not getting it done this year.
Dude, when you look at this record with Oregon, I mean, come on. All right. Look, they beat Montana State. They beat Oklahoma State, who is terrible. They beat Northwestern, they're not terrible, but they're not great. They beat Oregon State. They beat Penn State, which it has turned out to be an absolute dumpster fire, right? They lost to they lost to Indiana. They beat Rutgers. They beat Wisconsin, was terrible. They barely beat Iowa. It was a pretty good team. And then they shellacked Minnesota, right? Now they got USC, and then they got Washington at the end of the year. So it's like, listen, I get they have one loss, and that one loss, was to the number 2 team in the country. There's no good wins on that resume. There's none. So you got to figure if they lose on Saturday to USC, you have to figure that they're going to drop a good bit. So, again, for we were talking about Miami fans earlier, I was torn, between who I want to win that game. But honestly, I'd like to see Oregon lose that game. I really would.
Oh, you 100%. There's few, not just for the Miami, the Hurricane fans, but every team, outside looking in, for say a Utah, who still has Utah or BYU both have chances to make the Big 12 title game. You want those. You don't want to see this team walk in with 10 wins now. But yeah, like you said, it's a weak schedule. Oregon State, they're not good. Oklahoma State's not good. Wisconsin's there's no quality games on that schedule. Definitely, and even the next week game, Washington is no cupcake walkthrough win either. I mean, they're 7.
No, at Washington, that could be challenging. I think that would go down as a good win if they were to win that game. But yeah, man, the rest of the schedule is light. Again, they're one tough opponent they lost to, and again, I don't think there's any shame in losing to Indiana because of obviously what Indiana has turned into. But again, man, the rest of that schedule, what's saving them is, again, they've only got one loss, right? And again, rightfully so, they haven't played anybody, right? But a second loss with this schedule would definitely be cause for concern if you're an Oregon fan, and I could really see them, being on the outside looking in when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think they're on the outside looking in. We also have Missouri going to Norman to play Oklahoma after that big victory in Tuscaloosa, ending Alabama's 41-game home winning streak. Not in line, doesn't have a chance to play in the Big 12 title game. It's very. I said Big 12 SEC title game. I think it's very slim for them. Which, if you look at the SEC, would be crazy. If Texas beats Texas A&M next week, they don't play in the big SEC title game.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild right there.
It could be Georgia. And the wild thing is, Alabama, even though they lost, I still think that they still have the best path to get in. Beat Auburn and they get in.
Yeah, the thing with Alabama is, obviously, I mean, they've got 2 losses now, and their bad loss was to Florida State, right? But then you look at who they beat, and they beat some really good teams, right? And so, that's one of those resumes that when you're stacking them up, if you're a 2-loss team and you're stacking them up against Alabama, it's hard to get the benefit of the doubt because of who Alabama's beat. They beat some really good teams. They went on a really long win streak, after beating, Florida State, after losing to Florida State. And in the midst of that, they beat some good teams. So, and then Alabama's Alabama, right? If Missouri had done the same thing, they wouldn't be getting the same kind of credit. But, Alabama is Alabama, and they tend to get the benefit of the doubt. So,
I mean, yeah, you beat Georgia, you beat Vanderbilt, you beat Missouri, you beat Tennessee, then South Carolina on the road, which, I mean, they're not South Carolina saw, but you're still tough on the road. LSU's down. And then you got Eastern Illinois, which should be unless, Tony Romo or Jimmy Garoppolo come back and play, I don't see it being close.
I still don't think that'd be enough. I still don't think that'd be enough, man.
But definitely, we had, I don't know if you want to talk any more games coming up this weekend. I know you guys have a really tough one versus Virginia Tech and Blacksburg. The new James Franklin University over there. After he just had his introduction,
really interesting hire, I think, for Virginia Tech. I think to me, I think it's a home run if you're Virginia Tech. When you consider where you've been recently and I guess where you haven't been, right? Ever since Frank Beamer left, that program has just been, just essentially irrelevant, right? And I think, hiring a guy like James Franklin, man, I think, again, where he's been and what he's done, I think you have to applaud it. As a conference, I think if you're the ACC, the leadership in the ACC, I would imagine they're ecstatic about it. I think if you're the rival coaches in the ACC, I think you have to you better get your stuff straight. He's a guy who recruits the DMV area really, really well. A guy who's who got Vanderbilt on track, not even back on track originally. Yeah. Before there was Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, there was James Franklin at Vanderbilt. Right, and that's what got him that Penn State gig. James Franklin knows how to coach. Now, listen, you can argue, all you want, whether he's a guy who, your big time matchups, and and is he this, that, and the third. Listen, that's a different topic for a different show. But I don't think you can argue the fact that the guy is a really good coach. The guy can recruit. The guy can develop. When you look at what it is they put in the NFL at Penn State, and I don't know that he'll be able to necessarily replicate, the same amount of influx of talent in Blacksburg they did in Penn State. But again, a guy who's recruited well, who's developed well, who's won a lot of games, put guys in the NFL, gives them instant credibility, with name recognition, the resume, and the whole deal. And so, again, man, I think for the ACC as a whole, I think that's a huge win, man. I think that guy's a great hire. I don't know that you could have done any better if you were Virginia Tech. I think they're super lucky to have gotten him. And also, not to be overlooked is the fact that now Penn State goes from owing him $55 million? Now they only owe him $9 million. So, the Penn State people have to be happy about that too. That now they only owe him $9 million as opposed to 50-something million dollars that they owed him before.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a good hire to get that splash. The guy's got definitely good background with Vanderbilt, with Penn State recruiting, putting some big names on the defensive side, especially in the NFL at Penn State. Yep. And a guy who's going to have his work cut out because, like you said, since Frank Beamer, we really haven't since basically Michael Vick, we really haven't seen a great Virginia Tech team. Who's been contending. So he's going to have his work cut out for him. It's definitely a splash hire. Might be a little easier for him. Being there, he's going to have a little time. Because Virginia Tech's had such a bad time, they're not going to expect such immediate success. They're going to let him get in. But he's definitely he's an uphill battle. But I didn't see Virginia Tech being able to pull a James Franklin.
No, I was surprised. I didn't think, especially with the amount of openings that were available, across the country. I thought he'd be in demand for some of those bigger jobs, right? But also when you look at what it is that he's up against, right, in the ACC, assuming that, whatever he was hearing from his representatives in terms of compensation was relatively similar, on the West Coast or in the South, or wherever it is that he was maybe getting interest from. You have to imagine that the ability to come into an ACC that is down right now and in a year's time be a top 4 team had to have been attracted to him, right? I can't imagine that it wasn't, right? You're looking at when the ACC. And I mean, what are the stumbling blocks in the ACC right now? You know, I mean, Clemson is down, Florida State's down. You know, you got SMU, who, you know, is decent, but didn't have the year that they had last year. You know, Duke, you know, that is good, but, you know, isn't scaring anybody. You know, Miami right now is you know, along with Georgia Tech, probably the two best teams, you know, in the ACC. And I don't think they've set a bar that, you know, is unattainable, right? That is unreachable. If you're James Franklin. The school just came out not too long ago and you know, mentioned something about like a $200 million, you know, pledge to sports and the whole deal. Now, you know, it remains to be seen where football, you know, kind of lands in the whole deal. But, you know, like I know that whenever they're pledging a ton of money to most universities, football tends to be at the top of the list in terms of who's gonna benefit most from that amount of money being given. So you're looking at now with rev share, you're looking with that new commitment from the school, and again, man, if you're James Franklin, you're looking around the landscape of the ACC and going, who can I not go up against in recruiting? And with a good enough staff, who can I not go at, you know, on the field in short order? So I think that had to have been attractive.
We saw Rhett Latchley at SMU turn that program around.
Exactly.
So
1 year.
You know, 1 year they were in the ACC title game in the playoffs. So it's not in today's landscape, not like when he was at Vanderbilt, Oregon, Penn State. It's a lot easier to turn it around in 1 year with the NIL and the transfer portal. Yep. And, you know, I was surprised because I heard his comments he made after he got fired. He's like, well, my daughter goes to Penn State. My family lives in Pennsylvania. You know, we're comfortable here. So I was surprised. I'm like, you know, the offer must have been, you know, pretty solid for him to, you know, decide to move. It must have been a pretty sizable offer for him to, you know, take the job this immediate after firing from Penn State.
Yeah, to me, and again, kind of going back to that whole deal with the amount of open, excuse me, with the amount of vacancies, you know, across the country, and you know, again, I don't know that there's been any real movement one way or the other when you're looking at most of these programs. I think you're hearing some names connected to some of them, right? Obviously, LSU and Florida being the most high profile, so you're hearing the most chatter in terms of possible candidates and the whole deal. And obviously Virginia Tech is nowhere near, you know, the type of job that Florida and LSU are. But by and large, I mean, I haven't heard of a ton of movement or a ton of chatter when it comes to the majority of these jobs. I think just about everybody, at best, you're speculating, right? I mean, you know, it's you know, Lane Kiffin, and then literally everybody else, right? Lane Kiffin, it seems to be the only one that people are talking about. Steve Sarkisian came out the other day and shut that talk down. You know, he didn't appreciate it. You know, and then you're looking around at everybody else. You know, John Summerall, you know, dude at Tulane, and
he shut that down too.
And did he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
did not know that.
Yeah, he's like, I'm comfortable. I'm not going. He shut that down too.
Wow, let's see. That's cool. That's cool. Clark Lee at Vanderbilt is another one. I don't know if he's come out publicly and kind of denounced anything or denied anything, but I know he's a name that you know, because of where he's been previously and what he's done now, is a guy who I would imagine is going to be attractive and probably can parlay that into an extension at Vanderbilt. You know, a la Lane Kiffin, right? Lane Kiffin, it seems like every couple of years, you know, kind of parlays the interest into an extension and a raise, you know, at whatever school he's at. So, you know, man, if I'm Ole Miss, I'm pissed. Right, because you know, this song and dance that we're doing, you know, again, every couple of years, it's the interest in Lane and the whole deal, and he doesn't come out and really, you know, shut it down, right? He just kind of adds it on, and you see what he posts on Instagram and Twitter and the whole deal. So he doesn't do anything to quell the rumors or quell the smoke behind, you know, everything. You know, he definitely adds to it.
He at Tennessee. He was like, I love it here. I'm staying 1 year. When SC job open, he bolted quick. Now he kind of got a little karma because he got left on the tarmac in there in Tempe, Arizona. Yeah. So it's a little karma. But I know people in Tennessee hate Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, they do not like that guy. They don't like him at all.
Like Lane Kiffin.
And it's amazing to me. Listen, man, it's nice to be wanted, right? It's really nice to be wanted when you're looking at the numbers being thrown around for possibly paying Lane Kiffin, man. It's great to be the apple of a lot of people's eyes, especially when you look at the fact that Lane Kiffin hasn't won anything.
Yeah.
I get, Lane Kiffin, knows offense. I get that he puts together, some good offensive teams and the whole deal. But when you're looking around at Lane Kiffin's resume, this is the best year Lane Kiffin has ever had, right? And it's not over yet, right? I mean, he has, there's still, who knows if he makes an SEC title game. I more than likely he's going to make the playoff. But what has Lane Kiffin won? What has Lane Kiffin done anywhere that he's been, that makes him just this attractive, right? And it's not only you don't hire Lane Kiffin in a vacuum, right? It's what you get from Lane Kiffin, right? You get, some controversy, and you get, him flirting with other programs. And again, inevitably he does it and then gets a raise and an extension. So, again, man, good for Lane. Yeah, good for Lane and his family. But I don't know. I know he's a good coach, right? And I'd be lying to you if I told you that I wouldn't like him at the school I root for, right? But you also have to realize what comes with him, right? And again, if that's worth it to you, then by all means. But again, for a guy who's never won anything, and for a guy who doesn't necessarily do everything the right way, every single time when it comes to media and when it comes to certain deals, like there sure is a lot of hype around Lane Kiffin.
I mean, speaking about doing things the right way, he literally was at Alabama, the offensive coordinator, took the job at Ole Miss. What does Nick Saban do? No, you're not going to stay here. Hit the road. Sark's going to come and be our OC. You can. You want to do that to us? You can hit the road. You can pack up and leave. You're done. 100%. So I mean, there's not just the what he did at Tennessee. What 10 odd. A lot. I don't even remember how long.
More than that now, I think.
But that was probably like 2012, 2013. I can't even remember.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
I mean, and recent future with Alabama, he did the same thing, and you knew Nick Saban wasn't going to mess around with that. He's like, all right, that's fine. We'll bring in Sarkisian. Will be our OC. You can leave. So he's got this track record. I mean, hey, good for him. He knows how to play the game. I mean, in some retrospect, you're like, hey, you give him a tip of the cap because he knows how to play the game into his best interest, but also for not being an Ole Miss fan, but just as an outsider looking in, you want some loyalty. I'm like, hey, we're 10-1. We're on the cusp of playoff here. We're right in the thick of things for competing for a national title. You want some loyalty, not every time you open up ESPN or Bleacher Report or wherever you get your news from or Twitter, you see a Lane Kiffin's, going to LSU. Lane Kiffin's, what type of boat is Lane Kiffin going to get in Gainesville? I'm like, hey, guys, Gainesville ain't anywhere near the ocean.
It's not on the water. It's not on the water. It's in Florida. It's not on the water.
I mean, like,
Gainesville's a dump.
Gainesville's a dump. Maybe a lake, but I'm like, guys, it ain't it's the. I'm like, it's in the middle of the freaking state.
Gainesville's not on the ocean. Gainesville's a dump. If we're being 100% honest, sorry, not sorry. It is what it is. Trust me, I've been there a couple of times, never been impressed by it. And this is the other thing too. If you're Lane Kiffin, right? When you're at Ole Miss, the level of expectation is different, right? Because look at what LSU has run off in terms of coaches. Brian Kelly was winning 10 games a year while he was there. Look at what Florida had run off, in terms of coaches, right? Dan Mullen went like 3 straight 9-win seasons or something like that. Yeah. Or a couple 9 and maybe a 10, something like that. But and he got fired. If you do what Lane is doing this year at Ole Miss, you know what's going to happen? And listen, you make the playoff, you may win a game, you may not. But this type of season at Ole Miss every few years lands you constant raises and constant extensions. It's not going to be the case at Florida, and that's not going to be the case. Sure as hell is not going to be the case at LSU. Look at what you'd be following up at LSU. Listen, you can say what you want about Brian Kelly. Right, I get that based on I don't know the guy, right? But based on everything I've seen of him, online and based on everything I've seen him on ESPN and on Twitter and whatever the case may be, I get Brian Kelly is generally a very unlikable guy, right? But let me tell you something. Brian Kelly, everywhere he's been, he's won. Everywhere he's been, he's won, right? And I guarantee you, if you put together the resumes of Brian Kelly and Lane Kiffin, and I get Brian Kelly's been around in the whole deal, but Brian Kelly has a better resume than Lane Kiffin.
Those
right?
SC years were bleak. I mean, I'm from Southern California. Those SC years after Pete Carroll left for the NFL, they were dark times at USC, and that was right after SC had the Matt Leinerts, and it was the high of the high when I was in high school. USC was like
those teams were amazing, but they fell off hard, right? Pete Carroll left. Obviously, there was some scandal there.
There was probably something going on, but Pete Carroll was a worker, dude. You'd see Pete Carroll on a Wednesday at a junior college watching football practices. I mean, Pete Carroll was all over the Southern California area.
But again, you're looking at what you'd be following up at LSU, right? And now you have to consider the fact that this is what you have to contend with, right? Brian Kelly was successful at LSU. He didn't win a title, but Brian Kelly was successful at LSU. So now you have to recruit better and win more games. And Lane Kiffin,
Dan Mullen's career, his record at Florida was 30-15.
Yeah,
but White got him fired. He was 2-11 versus Power 5 opponents. But still, 34-15. They held on Billy Napier how many years?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy got Billy Napier would have to go like 10-2 for like 4 straight years to even get close to what he got fired.
Yeah.
Everybody knows
Billy Napier was terrible. I wish I would have kept him personally, but he was definitely terrible. I wish I would have given him an extension. But listen, that is the deal, right? Going back to the whole, who they've had there, who they've run off. You add to that now with some of these, the high profile guys, in the group of 5 and the whole deal. And Billy Napier was like, Billy Napier at Louisiana was super successful. Like, I mean, the dude was kicking ass at Louisiana right before he took the Florida job, and so, again, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that you're going to go, from the group of 5 to the SEC and succeed. Just like there's no guarantee that you're going to go from one SEC program to the other and succeed, right? Again, I think if you're a guy like Lane Kiffin, personally, and that's such a personal decision, man. You don't know exactly what factors go into that. Again, you have family, you have kids. There's a lot of stuff that goes into the decision, right? But by and large, if you listen to Lane Kiffin talking how comfortable he is in Oxford and his family and his kids playing football. His oldest kid, I think, is playing football. He's really good. And then you compare that to where you'd be going in terms of Baton Rouge or in terms of Gainesville and what comes with that position. I personally don't see why you would want to make that transition. Now, again, I'm not the one making the decision, but I feel like what I'm building at Ole Miss, right, is mine, right? I'm not following anybody. I'm not following anybody's footsteps. Somebody who's won titles and the whole deal. If you go to Gainesville, if you go to LSU, you're doing that, right? You're following people's footsteps.
Following Steve Spurrier, following
Steve Spurrier, yeah, exactly, right. And then you go to LSU, Saban, Orgeron, Les Miles have won titles there, right? So it's like, dude, at Ole Miss, you're kind of paving your own way. You're doing your own thing. You're doing it your way. So to me,
they're down 10-7 right now versus Arkansas State. See how starved I am to watch college football. I got
same.
Louisiana.
Yeah, also.
But all right, so we definitely had the drop of college football playoff rankings 3 this past week, and definitely some intrigue, but pretty steady at the top with Ohio State, who I don't know who they got Rutgers this week, and then Michigan. Then we got Indiana 2, who's got Purdue, I want to say, only left. And then A&M, which will be a big game because if they lose to Texas, that would knock them out of the SEC title game, which might not be a bad thing. Then you got Georgia at 5, Texas Tech right there on the outside looking in. We spoke about Ole Miss a lot. They're at 6. Oregon at 7. Oklahoma jumped to 8 after that big win. Notre Dame at 9. Alabama at 10. BYU at 11. Utah at 12. And then the Tulane right now would be the group of 5 is what they got in as the highest ranked group of 5 at 8-2. But they still have, Tulane still has a couple tough games. Not mention the. I mean, you play Temple and Charlotte, should be 2 easy victories. But then you either got to play North Texas, who's 9-1, Navy, who's 8-2. So I mean, they still got to win all 3 games out to get that last bid. But Utah, BYU or I guess Utah would be the outside looking in. They had Miami in, but they didn't put Georgia Tech. Looks like it's going to be Georgia Tech, Virginia, if all plays out correctly in the ACC. If they do both do their job in the ACC title game with SMU outside looking in right now with Miami. I don't know what they need to happen to get into that ACC championship game, but it's I know it's slim.
Yeah, they definitely need help. They need help, but right now they're the highest ranked ACC team. Right. And so when you're looking at, to me, man, and again, I don't want to do the whining deal and everything. It just when you look at some of these rankings and Utah is kind of the perfect example to me when you're looking at when you're comparing resumes in terms of, let's say Utah and Miami when you're comparing these teams, right? Listen, Utah has played 2 good teams and got beaten by both of them, right? Texas Tech beat the brakes off them. That wasn't even a game. Right, they lost by 24 to Texas Tech, and then they lost to BYU by 3 points. Right, and then you look at who they have beaten. Right, let's talk about who they've beaten. All right, they've beaten UCLA, dumpster fire. Cal Poly, obviously not an FBS team. Wyoming, terrible. They beat West Virginia. West Virginia is not good. They beat the brakes off Colorado. Colorado is not good. Colorado, I think, is like 3-7 or 4-7 or something like that. They beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati's probably their best win, right? Cincinnati's unranked. Cincinnati's their best win. They beat Baylor.
Got Cincinnati this week. Bear down, baby.
There you go. So Utah beat Cincinnati. They beat Baylor, and now they've got Kansas State on Saturday. And then they end the year with Kansas. So when you're looking at that resume, if you're looking at it just black and white, how could you possibly have them over Miami? Like, how does I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand what you're looking at.
I think the Utah. I got the being definitely not very active on Twitter, but I'm on there, and obviously a lot of the guys who follow me and I follow back are Dolphins fans. So a lot of the feed I see is either Dolphins related or like Hurricanes related because. Like, oh, Bobby follows this guy, and or he follows me, and I follow him back. So I see Hurricane stuff. I get the Utah stuff, and when they had Vanderbilt ahead, the BYU I never got. I was like, BYU's a solid team, especially. I mean, BYU has to win out and win the Big 12 title to have a chance, to get in. They're not getting that large, but I get the frustration on both. I get the frustration on the Miami side, like, hey, we played Notre Dame, we beat them, so why are they ahead of us? This is the other thing is, I mean, and I know we spoke about it week 1. I'm like, what is the committee looking at? Are they going quality losses? Because like I said after that lot, I'm like, this is the 2 losses Notre Dame had was quality loss. You lost to Miami by 3 on the road with a guy who threw 2 passes, and you lost to Texas A&M, who's undefeated now. So they're quality losses with a guy who's never been in that. But it's like, I think Miami deserves it. Deserves to be in just because the ACC is so poor. I mean, I think it should be 4 SEC teams. Give me the 2 of the Big Ten. The ACC bit Texas Tech. Hopefully, the Miami needs Texas Tech to just win the Big 12. You don't need BYU get in there and clog it up, and then go from there. But it's what are they going off of? Are they going off of a couple good victories? Which you play Notre Dame, who just came off the runner-up last year at home. Yes, you played them at home, but you beat them at home. You did your job. Are we going off of? Hey, those are two really tough opponents, and you played them really tough. Yes, you lost. So and I think, and we spoke about the BCS. We have human error, and humans have a natural bias towards in anything. They're always going to have a little bias, even if they say, "Hey, I'm unbiased." They're going to lean a little way. So that's when you come in and it's like, "Hey, we don't want a computer to do it. We want humans to do it." I'm like, well, humans have a natural bias. They're always going to have even if they say they don't, they're always going to have a little natural bias. Now, I think they got to fix it. I'm like, hey, if Miami wins out, which they knock on wood for my co-host Q, they win out, and they don't make it. What is that gonna signal to other teams that say, why would we schedule a tough non-conference opponent if that's not going to help our case to get into the 12-team playoff?
Exactly. Well, listen, and that's that's kind of what Miami's dealing with now, right? When you're looking at again, and we'll see. Listen, as long as they win out, well, the cards fall where they may, right? But I'm definitely not a fan when it comes to everything like this. The timing of the losses, right? Because at the end of the day, right, it's 2 losses, right? It's 2 losses for both teams. One of them being head-to-head when you're talking about Notre Dame, Miami. But along with that, some of the what was it, Juracek was the head of the committee or whatever, and he gets on camera. First of all, the guy sweats like an animal. First off, second off, it's terrible. And then his logic when you're talking about still giving Oregon credit for being Penn State. What? Like, what are we talking about? Beating them? Why? Because Penn State is Happy Valley sits a lot of people. Like, how are we giving them credit for beating a team that's terrible? Penn State's terrible. They fired their coach. Like, Penn State's not a good team, right? And then you're looking around at their logic for for other things and the whole deal. It's just there's no consistency, and I think that's the biggest thing when you're looking at the reasoning behind some of these decisions is that there's no consistency. If you're consistent across the board, right, and who you're giving credit, to what for, and then who's being deducted for, again, it's got to be apples and apples. That you can't just pick and choose like, oh, well, we're just going to give them credit because when they played them, they were the number whatever team in the country, but they're not ranked right now, right? And so we're picking and choosing, what credit we're giving to what programs, based on nothing more that you have to call it bias and preference, right? And so again, that's kind of my deal with everything, right? I think, if I'm sitting here looking at the rankings, right, if I'm being 100% honest and unbiased, I think all the way through 1 to, like if Oregon wins out, right, Oregon's number 7. So 1 through 7, I don't really have a huge issue with, right, because those are either undefeated teams or 1-loss teams. You get to number 8 and below, Oklahoma's got a nice resume. They beat some good teams. Right, they have 2 losses, but again, they beat good teams. Notre Dame hasn't beaten shit. Notre Dame hasn't beaten anybody good. So like, oh, they're on an 8-game win streak. They haven't played anybody. So yeah, I mean, they've won 8 straight games. Good for them. They've looked good, but they've done it against nobody. Look at the resume. Look at the resume. Who they beat?
They beat SC.
Huh? They beat SC. Okay, one good team. My bad. They have one good win, right? And that's it, right? And then you're looking around when you get past that. Again, BYU's resume isn't impressive. Utah sure as shit isn't impressive, right? And then below them, right, Vanderbilt. How Vanderbilt's ranked so high, it boggles my mind. Texas with 3 losses, they're still like kinda in the hunt, even though I don't think they're going to make it. People talking them up like they've got a chance is mind-boggling. mind-boggling.
No
They're
shit.
7-3, dude. They're 7-3. They lost to 3-7 or whatever Florida is now. 4-7, 3-7, 4-6, whatever the hell they are.
They're done.
They're like how they're but the thing is though, and this is my thing though, Russ, is like
That's
when you have Kirk Herbstreit, who carries weight in this arena, when you have him on a national telecast saying that Texas is still alive, people hear that. People hear that. Those words matter. That's BS.
Everybody shits on my boy Paul, Feinbaum, but you know what he's doing? He's out there ripping it. Everybody always just see by. He's ripping this committee right now. So I love it. Paul Feinbaum knows his shit. He knows college football, but everybody's like, oh, he's in the South. He's got to buy. I'm like, yeah, he's definitely.
Both things can be true, though. Both things can be true. He knows, but he's also very, very biased towards the SEC. He doesn't like Notre Dame, and he's very biased towards the SEC. So both things can be true at the same time. He does know his stuff, but he's also unapologetically biased towards the SEC.
I just turned on the NFL game. I got sick of the Lafayette Arkansas State game.
Yeah. Tonight that Buffalo Houston game should be pretty good. But yeah, man.
I'm fine with 1 through 6. 7's where I kind of have a problem. I can see Notre Dame getting in. I know we're gonna disagree on that, but that's fine.
I don't necessarily disagree with them getting in. Right. Again, I just don't. Again, they have one decent win. Right. They're the other teams that they play that they lost to. Obviously, they're both ranked. I mean, they're good losses. Right. But again, the resume is impressive. But I mean, I would be lying if I said, yeah, they're not one of the best 12 teams in the country. Right. I just, more than anything, like, to me, it's more so like if Notre Dame gets in, then Miami has to get in. Is just kind of the way I look at it.
BYU, is definitely. I mean, they got absolutely shellacked by Texas Tech. Yep. I mean, the best win. I mean, you beat Utah, who, I mean, it's the holy war there. Yeah, that's a big win, but I mean, that's a ranked.
Nobody else though.
Shellacked 29-7 by Texas Tech. So I mean,
everybody else. Like, look, Portland State. They kicked the hell out of Stanford. They beat up East Carolina. They barely beat Colorado, who's terrible. They beat West Virginia. They beat Arizona. They lost to they beat Utah.
Barely beat Arizona. They had to take Arizona.
They beat Iowa State, who's, man, they got beat up by Texas Tech. They got boat raced by Texas Tech, because I was watching some of that game. They beat TCU, who's not good. And then they got Cincinnati, coming up on Saturday. Cincinnati's pretty good. And then UCF end the season, and they're terrible. So to me, this is one of those. This is one of those schedules and those resumes. You're looking and you're going, yeah. Who? Show me who they played. Show me who they beat. Show me who they beat. They haven't beat anybody. So to me, moving forward, this is the kind of deal, right? Even though they're playing, obviously they play in the Big 12 or whatever. They play their conference, but this is the kind of thing right there where teams should be taking a look at this and going, first of all, if we're the SEC, why the hell are we playing another SEC game, right? Even though not everybody in the SEC is good, but it's why don't we just schedule a damn cupcake and get credit for not losing a game? You're not even getting credit for winning. You're getting credit for not losing a game, right? Because you're playing literally tomato cans, and you're beating tomato cans, and it's good enough to keep you in the top 10.
Did you see one of the scenarios? Which probably won't happen if they end up winning this week, but they're throwing out, if USC makes it, Lincoln Riley going to Norman to kick off it would be phenomenal.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
I don't see USC making it, even if they went out. I just don't see it happening. I think there's too many good teams that would be outside looking in.
It would have to be mass. It's not
on the Notre Dame side. I think this is the reason they don't want a conference, because they control their own schedule. They have everything in front of them that they don't have to, like in Miami's case, uh, you know, it's slim they make the ACC title game. But so I think this is the reason they've always turned it down in football. Now in other sports they are in the ACC or in other sports, but in football they want to stay independent because they like to have control of their own schedule and they don't have to deal with this. But I mean, on that side, I think it's on this side. It'll be interesting what ends up happening with Alabama if they do make the SEC championship game and win the SEC title game. And then you have Oklahoma there, who yes does have 2 losses, but they did beat Alabama. And then Ole Miss, could you leave them out if they end up winning their last 2 games when they got the Egg Bowl? Which is always the day after Thanksgiving. I always remember
that Friday. Yeah, it's Black Friday.
So it'll be interesting there. I mean, that's wild. But I mean, on the Hurricane side, what are your rooting interests going in these last 2 weeks and title games? Is it just I want every favorite to win? I need Texas Tech to win the Big 12 because I don't need another Big 12 team to get in there.
Yeah, man. First off, AD, what's up, buddy? Glad you can join us, man.
Definitely.
Glad you can join us, brother. It's been a minute, man. We got to get together. There's a lot of scenarios
for you on the podcast, whatever podcast, Q. It's been a minute for you.
Yeah, it's been a minute with everybody, bro. Got to get back in the swing of things. But listen, first and foremost, man, as a Miami fan, I'm just rooting for them to end strong, right? I think they need to go to Blacksburg on Saturday and handle business. I don't give a damn about Enter Sandman. I don't give a damn about, whatever the hell they got going on in Blacksburg and their home field and all that. I'm not worried about any of that. It's a 12 o'clock kick. All right. They need to go over there and handle business. I don't care under what circumstances. They need to go over there and absolutely handle Virginia Tech. And then, go to Pittsburgh on Thanksgiving weekend and handle business again. I think, Notre Dame showed, that, Pitt.
Pittsburgh was a quality one too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Pitt's a good team. They're not a great team, but they're a good team, right?
We forgot about that one.
Yeah, and so again, man, I watched absolutely AD. I'm right there with you, bro. Dominate is the word, and I think we can use some other not safe for work words. I can think of a few. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, you got to win convincingly, go to Pittsburgh and win convincingly, right? And I think both things can be done. Obviously, I think the Pitt game is going to be challenging. I think that's a losable game. But when you look at what it is that Miami's been doing since that SMU game, man, I think when you look at NC State, I know NC State's not going to be at the top of anybody's a good team list or anything, but they handled Georgia Tech. And they held Georgia Tech easy, right? And Georgia Tech is going to be more than likely be in the ACC title game. So the NC State, a win, I think was a good win. They dominated. I was there for that one. They dominated opening kick to final whistle. It wasn't even a game. So the same effort, has to be present in Blacksburg this weekend, and then following that at Pitt, and then obviously, man, ahead of them, there's got to be. I wouldn't necessarily call it chaos, but there's definitely got to be some things that fall their way. In terms of, some of these teams, right? I mean, it probably wouldn't be, a terrible thing if BYU or Utah lost some of these games. Obviously I don't think Notre Dame's going to lose before the end of the season, but, I would imagine Oregon losing to USC would probably benefit them because I think that would cause them to fall because of their lackluster, resume right now. And then really, man, outside of that, I mean, Alabama, I don't know that it's necessarily a guarantee that they won't lose another game. I don't think they will, but it's not a guarantee. We'll see. There's a lot of scenarios. I think there's less scenarios in the playoff rankings than there are in the ACC championship game standings. if you look at everything.
Less
So
scenarios in playoff rankings in the SEC right now because it's like, hey, they lose out. This team that Georgia gets in out. It'll be Georgia. Texas A&M loses. Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss is sitting on. I mean, the scenarios in the SEC right now are insane. But
yeah,
on our bingo card at the beginning of the year, we had both of us had Miami, Clemson in the ACC title game. Were we wrong? We were. I mean, we both said Georgia Tech was going to be a dark horse, but
we did say that.
No one on our bingo card had Virginia, as definitely having, a clear path to ACC title game if they handle business.
Yeah, listen, man. I think beginning of the season you're looking at rosters, right? And it's so hard to predict the way the season is going to go. If you would have told me Clemson was going to be this bad, I would have 100% taken you up on that bet. I would have never guessed they were going to be this bad, right? That's a talented team. Now, granted, I think some of their talent, was a little bit overvalued at some of the positions, right? I think O-line, they're not great. I don't think they're great at running back. I said from the jump, Cade Klubnik was not the guy. I said that from the jump. I liked my chances of being right on that, and I was spot on that one. Cade Klubnik was overrated. If you're not a cupcake, Cade Klubnik doesn't play well against you, right? So, again, for a lot of reasons, Clemson has kind of fallen off this year. Definitely did not have Virginia being this good. And along with that, Tony Elliott, who's the head coach at Virginia, he's one of those guys, man, that I think really quietly, very low key, I think is a guy who is going to garner some interest at the end of the season. I think what he's done with that program, the way he's turned them around, the way he's handled the transfer portal, he's identified some of these guys that come in and develop them, and the way he's got them playing. I would be surprised if Tony Elliott isn't quietly on, at the top, or at least in the running for some of these programs that they're just not making it known, which obviously is the intelligent way to go about things, right? But again, I think he's going to be one of those guys who's going to be in demand. But yeah, man, Virginia's been impressive. We said from the jump Georgia Tech was going to be good, even though I think now the defense has kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. Haynes King is having a borderline Heisman season. He's been really, really good. He's that offense, right? And so, again, I'm not shocked that Georgia Tech is where they are. I expected SMU to kind of fall back down to earth a little bit. Even though they're not bad, I think obviously they beat Miami, but they're good.
They still have a path.
Yeah, they're good, right? Duke has had a pretty good season, and obviously I expected a little bit more from UNC under Bill Belichick, right? That's been a disaster. You're looking around at some other teams. Virginia Tech's not good, obviously. But yeah, man, I think across the board there's good teams in the ACC. There's not great teams in the SEC. Yeah. So, but again, the way it's going now, if you would have told me Virginia and Georgia Tech at the beginning of the season, I would have given you Georgia Tech. I definitely would not have guessed Virginia, but they've earned it so far. If they make it, then they've earned it, right? And so, even though I don't expect any of those teams to be in the playoff, good for them. And
one of them will.
Well, you got to remember, man, it's the 5 highest ranked conference winners, and they're not guaranteed.
That doesn't win the ACC. They get no bid.
No, but they may not. They may not because of where they're ranked. They may not because of where they're ranked. They may win, but a group of 5 champion might be more highly ranked than them, and they may not make it. Because remember, it's not your Power 4 winners. It's the 5 highest ranked conference winners. And an ACC title winner may not be as highly ranked as USF, Memphis, Navy, any one of those teams. So it could happen. It could happen. I'm not guaranteeing. I'm not telling you it's a guarantee, but it could happen.
I think right they got it.
Right now, we are in territory. If you're forecasting this thing, remember Georgia Tech still plays Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia.
And if they lose that game, that's going to drop them. Now, granted, it may not, they may not drop like a lead balloon because Georgia's really good. But if they lose that game, they're going to fall in the rankings. And let's say they fall in the rankings, but then they win the ACC. The group of 5 champion, whoever that is going to be more highly ranked. So Georgia Tech is probably going to get left out if that's the scenario. It could happen. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, that'd be a bad look. I mean, it'd be terrible for the ACC.
Yeah,
But it's a position they put themselves in. So I mean, what can you really do?
You got anything else you want to hit on? Oh, did you see a big name quarterback might be doing some shopping?
Well, I've seen two. I'm sure you're probably talking about Sam Levitt from
Sam Levitt
Arizona
doing
State.
some shopping because he thinks his coach is going to be going somewhere else.
I don't know, man. Dillingham seems like a guy who's a lifer at Arizona State.
Arizona State guy. So
exactly. So he's young enough. I think Dillingham is young enough where I think he could stick out the Arizona State gig until it's not tenable anymore. And who knows if it won't be. I don't know. But I think he's young enough where he can ride that out and see kind of where it goes and kind of build his own thing there. You know, like we talked about with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. I think he could justify not taking some of these gigs and still later on, you know, who knows, 4 or 5 years from now, still be considered for some of these gigs. So we'll see how that goes, man. I mean, you know, time will tell. Money talks, obviously, but Sam Levitt's brother, who's his agent, came out and kind of squashed all that supposedly. But listen, man, we know where there's smoke, there's fire. And if that's getting out there, there's got to be a reason why. Because if all that was buttoned up at Arizona State, then I don't feel like, you know, like these kind of rumors would be out there in the manner in which they are. So listen, I think there's other quarterbacks. Like if I'm a Miami fan and you're looking around at bringing in a guy, you know, out of the portal, which I would imagine they are, you could do worse than Sam Levitt. I don't know Sam Levitt is elite necessarily, but I think he's really good. And in that Shannon Dawson offense, I think he can be really good. He's mobile. I think the guy's got a nice arm. He's accurate. I don't think the guy's a can't miss type of guy. But if you made me pick between him and like Lenora Sellers, for example, from South Carolina, I would have a hard. Yeah, Lenora Sellers, you have to like the skill set, right? And you got to like the measurables. Like he's a big kid. He can move. He's got a nice arm. But man, he's had a rough year this year. Yeah. And Sam Levitt the same, but Sam Levitt's been injured, right? So kind of a little bit different. I don't know. I think it's too early for me right now to really pick one or the other. You know, if they're both free agents and who I would want. But I think you have to be excited for either one, right? I think you take your coaching and your system, and you just assume that you can bring those guys in and they would elevate, you know, based on what you've seen, you know, in 25. So, you know, I think it'll be interesting, man. The offseason always is. It's a lot more like the NFL now because of the portal and everything like that.
Lenore Sellers is Sam Levitt's from Oregon, so he could be wanting to stay on the West Coast. Sellers is from Florence, South Carolina, so yeah. You know, you never know with those West Coast boys; they want to stay on the West Coast. But he's definitely, Sellers definitely had a down year. But I mean, I think we're all locked in on. We're seeing chaos right in front of our eyes, and I'm all for it.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to it, man. I'm not opposed to it. And when you're looking around the teams who navigate that and are successful in this era, man, I mean, you know, you got guys that know what they're doing, you know, and listen, man, you have to change with the times. You know, some of the stuff, you know, a lot of people don't like, right? They've cut down on the second portal window, which I think is probably a good idea. You know, but that means you have to hit. You got to hit on your only portal window.
Did you see that tweet some guy put out who's like the only people who should be on the committees like Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, all these great coaches, and Nick Saban's like, hey, I'm gonna tell you, I have an SEC bias. I lean towards the SEC. I'm like, hey, yes, that Urban.
Yeah. That's him putting out a not so subtle way of, hey, leave me alone. Don't approach me. Don't text me, don't call me, don't email me. I don't want anything to do with that process. So that's why you come out and say, I am biased.
One Saturday in the fall, every Saturday in the fall, that's your work day, and making millions, and then just go sit at home. He's got to jump on a plane once a week, and then he's going to go sit on the lake on his boat in Alabama. I mean, Why would he want to leave?
Or in Georgia. He's on the lake in Georgia.
Is he in Georgia?
Yeah. His lake house, I want to say is Lake Lake Burton, maybe one of those. It's nice. I've seen the pictures of his lake house. That thing is absolutely, it's a monstrosity. So yeah, he'll be on the lake in Georgia somewhere. But
I don't know.
I wouldn't take that game.
We're in Miami. Where was it last week? It's hilarious to see people in Florida. It's like it was like 55 here in like the Tampa. I'm like south. I'm Bradenton, so south of Tampa. You could see like people's faces like this, freezing. I don't know if you were down there, and it was like I'm cool. I'd wear I had some pants and like a light jacket on. I'm like, this ain't freezing.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I got down to Miami like the day after, the day after the coldest it had gotten down there. But I was listening to a couple podcasts, and I was seeing some people, on Twitter and Facebook and everything. And they were like, "Oh my God, it's freezing." So it's always funny, man, because if you've been in, obviously, I mean, I've been in Georgia for a while, and it gets cold here, right? Don't let anybody tell you any different. It's not because I was born and raised in Miami. It gets cold here. We get all 4 seasons, and you definitely get some cold weather. But it's just funny, man, being back in Miami, just because you get like a week's worth of cold, every year, and people are. It just makes me laugh what people are calling cold. I mean, it's and obviously a little bit different, man, because of the humidity and everything like that. So it makes it feel colder, but still, like, it's to me it was super comfortable. I mean, the weather was beautiful.
Yeah, it's been like 78 to 80 right now. I'm like, but
we had that's great.
2 days was like it was. People are like, I'm like, this. You don't know. I'm sorry, Atlanta. You don't know anything what I've been through. I lived in North Dakota.
You listen.
That is like
you weren't kidnapped and taken to North Dakota. You did that to yourself, bro. Like, that's just bad. That's bad decision making on your part. That's bad decision making on your part.
I wanted to play baseball.
There you go. College baseball. You gotta go where the opportunity is, right? Whether it's
I will stand on it. I probably will never go back to North Dakota, but the people in North Dakota, some of the nicest people you ever meet in your life.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know. People waved to me on the street, and I'm from California. I'm like, who the fuck are you? Do I know you? And they're like, hey, how's it going? Super. Yeah. The Midwest nice is a real thing. Like, people in the Midwest are just happier. Even though they're freezing their butt off, they're just happier.
Yeah. Which is cool to see and cool to know. I mean, that's a part of the country that I have not visited a whole bunch.
I was in Nashville. The 1 year I was in Nashville was cold as hell. And the bad part is, and you probably you might not get it as much because Nashville is like the earliest state in the U.S. gets the darkest earliest in Nashville, Tennessee.
Really?
It was like during the winter. It was like 4:30, pitch black. So it's like it's freezing and it's dark at 4:30. I'm like, this is a little depressing.
Yeah, that's not ideal. That's not ideal. That's one of those deals, man. Here is like when the time changes and right we fall back and the whole deal in daylight savings time ends. Man, I hate it because it coincides with it getting cold. So now it's cold and it's dark at like 5 o'clock. So it's definitely not my favorite time of year.
No, not about that either. We got like 5:30 here, so I'm like, God.
Yeah, is what it is, man. What do you do? That's all I got to complain about.
I got 1 day I get like an extra hour of sleep because if we fell back, so I get an extra hour. I'm like, I'd rather have the sun out for one. I'll lose the hour if you give me the sun for an extra 45 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, man, that's I think unless you got anything else, bro.
Good to get back at it and get back going.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm glad to be back on. I know I got to get together with Will. I got to get together with Adrian. I got to get together with Bobby, and we got to get some stuff out there. Like I said, man, I've been I've been slacking for the last month and really haven't put anything out. But we'll get back out there, man. We'll figure out the schedule for next week. Next week obviously is Thanksgiving week, so we'll figure something out for hopefully the early part of the week. Just keep making it happen, man. Keep making it happen, and we'll be on soon.
Sounds good.
All right, man. All right, guys. Hey, listen, thanks for joining us tonight. AD, appreciate the comments, man. Go check out the Rainy Day Pod with Adrian Rainey. Puts out some great content, man. He's whether it's Panthers, wrestling, football, Dolphins, Canes, everything, man. He puts out some great content. So go check him out. Check out everybody on the Finch Talk Sports Network, FTSN Extra. Also, a lot of great people putting in great content. Check out my boy Will with the 305 Sports Now podcast. He just did one with Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. So go check that out and check back with us next week, man. We'll be back with you early part of the week, talk more playoff rankings, talk end of the season, and until then, y'all take care, and we will talk to you guys soon.